Things. Bang! Hi guys, it is Pip. Changing my camera. Hold on. It's Pip. It is Geek Speak, and today we're getting on here. We're going to talk about some fabulous things. But before I do that, let me introduce myself properly, and then we'll introduce Greg. So I'm Pip. I run Seymour Digital Media, and we help businesses do their search and social. And this is Greg.
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg McKinnon, and I run Original 72 Creative, and we're a full-service website, graphic design, and digital marketing agency in Vancouver. Welcome to Geek Speak.
Right, sorry about that, Greg. I was just doing a couple things. I got a lot of screens going on. Let's put us on together. There we are. So today we are talking about, Greg, what are we talking about?
We are talking about content and how to write content that's going to convert.
Right.
I don't know if that's the exact title we went with.
The exact title is Developing Content That Gets You Leads and Sales. So something we all want. Now, I'm going to go over and invite up a couple people. Greg, you've been really busy this week, haven't you?
I've been pretty busy, yeah.
Yeah? What have you been doing?
I go through spurts. This week, I've been doing a lot of ads for customers.
Facebook or Google?
No, real world ads. Old school.
Real world ads.
Vancouver Sun, yeah.
Oh, ooh.
And then also because they're having an event, we're creating graphics and things for their homepage. To show people what the events are and stuff.
That's interesting. So I have invited a bunch of people. So let's get into the topic. I'm just going to open things up. So, Greg, now you get a lot of your business from doing word of mouth mostly, right?
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily focus on developing content, but you do work on clients that develop content for sales and leads, right?
I don't really write content. No, I don't. I'll work with them and tell them, what will work and what won't work, and give them feedback on what they are producing or have someone else producing. While I put it online, because I'm more focused on the presentation of the content and where it goes, and making sure it's in the right place and large enough and people are seeing the right things at the right times, stuff like that.
Right? Okay. Yeah. So I laid out this topic today, guys, and so we're going to talk about creativity formats, language to use, creativity and formats, and in that it's language to use and creative options. And then we're going to talk about content, Search Console wins, teaching, and sales, and problem solving. So let's get right into it, Greg. When we talk about creativity and formats to drive sales and leads, we're kind of, diving into what you were just talking about, which is what it looks like, what your pages and posts look like on your blog, right?
Yeah.
So what are you, because you look at the stats all the times too, right? So you're seeing what drives traffic.
Well, not what drives traffic, because that's different, but what keeps them on the page, what keeps them on for longer, and what keeps them converting. Is more what I would track with customers, and maybe tweak landing pages here and there depending on how the results go. Mm-hmm. The content itself doesn't typically, we won't rewrite it, but we may place it in different spots or put certain paragraphs above others, depending on what we're really trying to highlight on the page. Mm-hmm. And because it all matters. And the best thing you can do for that is A/B test a couple of different options and see which ones convert for you better.
That's a really, really good point. We have Ashley here and Gwen here. Hello, Gwen. Hello, Ashley. It looks like it's a quiet day around here. Second Thursday of this month, I think. Is it the second? Is it the second Thursday? So I was doing a bit of research on creating content that converts, and one of the coolest things that came out of it was the language we use and making it less formal and more approachable. So using terminology like I and you seems to resonate better with people. I don't know, when you're reading articles, I kind of like it too, right? When you're reading content, you want to feel like the person's actually talking to you, and one way to do that is through the I and you commentary. What do you think about that, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, how you address and how you write obviously is going to make a big difference, and I sort of bring that experience back for me to how I project on my own website. And historically, it's only recently that I've been actually going a little bit more towards me and who I am, but I've traditionally been a lot more of we and our company, and because it projects as bigger, and it has historically allowed me to get larger clients, because those larger clients that are the ones that I want to work with don't typically maybe want to work with the one guy, the single guy freelancer agency, right? So by projecting as a bigger than we are, allows me to get the leads of customers in that higher bracket that are the ones that I want to work with.
Right. Phelan's joined us. Ooh, Kat's here too. Kat is not saying hello, but I know she's here listening. So that's kind of cool. And of course, I just changed my screen. Went right over to her profile. I think that's really interesting, the point about I and we. Hey, Kat, if you are listening, let us know. You work for a company that has many people in it. Do you use terminology like I and you, or are you using phrases like we and us? Yeah, let us know. I think that's pretty neat. I am struggling with the camera stuff today, Greg. Just a little bit, I'll tell you. Okay, so language to use. Now, creative options. When you guys go and read blog posts, like, I love Neil Patel's stuff. It is long, it is juicy, it's got actionable items. It uses infographics, it uses video in between content, and we're seeing that more and more, that content that really works has text, video, infographics, images. I mean, it's a lot of work to produce that stuff, but that stuff works. So I don't, Greg, are you like, I don't do infographics. I find them like a lot of work, and they're interesting. I kind of skim over them. They're not something I utilize to my advantage. I should. What do you guys think?
Infographics, I feel, are good for information, but as far as, capturing leads and stuff, just putting it out there, you're just giving people information, which is great. I don't think there's a way to use that and get people to work with you. But what you can use it for is lead captures, right? So if someone is interested in that graphic that you've created, then, plug it, say what it's going to show you, and then have, if you want to download the high-res version and see it, just fill in your email or what have you. It's a way to get that email so that because what you're giving them is going to be your target client, and so you're getting their email and you're giving them something. So that's a way to be able to get a lead and potentially email them and get them as a client in the future with your offerings.
Right. Julia's here and Mona's here. She says, hi, gang. Hey, buddy, we're talking about content. Now, Mona, you write content, and I know, Julia, you write content. So this one's actually for you guys to drive those leads. So I liked what we talked about with creative options. I don't know if you know, but I want to desperately create a podcast. And so I'm looking at eventually putting audio on my site. I just for some reason, I love podcasts. So I'd like to try doing one. I think it's an interesting way to go.
Just take the audio from Geeks and post it as a podcast.
I was going to do that. So I don't know if you guys know, but we put this on YouTube. So I put this on YouTube after the chat because I find it helpful. And also, I just noticed that Facebook is doing this weird thing where you can't actually put iframes on your blog posts through Facebook. So it's better to upload through YouTube. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. But let's get back to it. Greg, Rodney had a post, and this relates to how content is delivered, right, to search engines and for users. And it's basically, you know, headline 1, headline 2. What do you think about that, Greg?
It was funny to see it because it's just after you read it, you're like, oh, why did that happen? You know, but because we just naturally are drawn to certain things. So basically what this thing was something that said, you will read this in big right in the middle. And then under that, it said, you will read this next. It's slightly smaller. And underneath that, it was like, you will read, and then you will read this. And then there's a little bit of text at the very top left that says, and you will read this last. And sure enough, you know, I don't know what percentage of time that's the pattern, but it just goes to show how important it is to put your content in the right places when you're sometimes it doesn't matter as much of what you're actually saying, but just making sure what you're trying to get across is what they are actually seeing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's important what and how you say it also, but it's almost just as important to make sure what you really want to get across to them is in the right place on a page or in an ad.
Right. Yeah, super important. So if you guys are going through the feed later on, check out that post. It's pretty high at the top. We've had a lot of great conversation this month. It's been wicked. Or this week. And so, okay, Greg, let's actually, now that we're kind of into it, let's talk more about content. So, most important thing, sadly to say, but it is, and we've seen companies that have grown exponentially. Of course, they've lost staff in the last 6 months because of all the changes, but it's headlines. So, and I was talking about all that clickbait stuff that happens, right? But those headlines are key to driving sales and traffic, right? So there's a good example of, say you're a mommy blogger and you're like, fluffy pancakes I made for my kids versus how to make fluffy pancakes for your kids, right? Or things like, so headlines are super important. So I don't really...
And even expand that to how you can create fluffy pancakes for your kids, because then you're speaking directly to them by having that the person immediately feels, oh, she's talking about me. I can create this, you know, and that changes completely how they read that sentence.
Yeah. Gwen is saying it's true. It's funny how she's talking about the infographic and how it's a mixed up message, or it can be. Very true. So yeah, back to the content. So the messaging, the headlines, super, super important. So testing headlines, great idea. There's a couple great resources out there, and I'll put some in the chat box later. I don't know, Greg, do you ever use, I don't, so I have to start doing this because I pick my headlines a different way, which we're going to get into in a moment. But, because actually, let's just do it now. So I pick my headlines by going through Search Console because I'm already seeing what I'm showing up for. And so you guys all know I'm kind of crazy with the Search Console stuff, but it really does have and I love seeing month over month showing up for those search terms, right? And you want even with your titles, you want your keyword at the beginning, so you want to do your keyword research first, right? That's gonna drive more sales and leads, I think.
So creating content for you, for your own site, you look at Search Console and see what you're doing well with and do more of it, as opposed to look at where you aren't doing as good and writing content to boost that more?
Interesting. So I've been blogging for about a year now. So next I will go through all of last year's and a bit the year before and probably update. And then I'll use Search Console in a way to improve my traffic and my content. So this year is all about just building. So a lot of the time they say, if you do any research and there's this argument of how long blog posts need to be, there's a lot of the 1,500 to 3,000 words, and then what about the 500 words? If you're just starting out, 500 words is fine. And as you build and grow, your content will grow, right? So the reason we're doing this strategy is because some words were showing up on page 10. There's millions of keyword phrases. And so if we're showing up on like page 10 and it's got a lot of impressions, we're going to use that keyword if we haven't used it and see how we can raise our ranking, right? And that's going to, so more eyeballs mean technically possibly more sales and leads if you're giving people what they want. The other thing is blogging and writing content in any form on a web page, on anything, is a lot about teaching and educating people, right? And this is there's a fine line because everybody's at different stages in their business or different stages of what they're looking for. So you're trying to answer that particular question and educate people, right? So it's not all about sales all the time, right, Greg?
I'm not a salesy kind of person, so I prefer when people put out information that I'm interested in and I don't get sold on it, but after reading I understand, these guys really know what they're talking about, and I feel deep down that's what will form better opinions of your business, because people will read your content and think and go off, and if they don't buy something or opt into something that you've got, at least they go away thinking, wow, these people know what they're talking about. I should maybe follow them on Facebook or wherever, social media. And then they know about you. They already start to respect you. And maybe the next time that you put something out, that's when they, decide, hey, I'm going to, buy this thing or what have you. So I find establishing yourself as an expert goes a long way. For me, at least, I don't like to be sold things.
Yeah. Personally, most searches are educational searches first, right? So they're informational. And so although maybe down the road you're looking at buying a product, and I find this is where a lot of businesses miss the mark. They're not doing retargeting. How many of us really buy the first time we see something or meet someone, or we oftentimes do a lot of research first. I mean, it's gotten to the point where you'll search on Google and open up 10 tabs and then go through each, open up 10 tabs, meaning clicking on each of the results on the first page, opening up a tab and scanning. And I don't know about you. Now, I don't do this, but I know a lot of people do. Most people, when they're reading a blog post or a page, they scroll to the end first. They actually read the conclusion to see if it's worthwhile to read above. So how many of you guys do that? I want to know, because I don't do it. I actually read the whole thing. But yeah, I think the educate and creating actionable things, so people, something that somebody can actually go do for themselves if they want to. And so you're leading them down the path of not only teaching, but educating and creating actionable things, right? What do you think, Greg?
I know you do a lot of reading. I was sort of half listening there because I was looking for something online because you mentioned something about character count or easy to write 500 words for something. So I was like, I wonder if there's a tool where you can, because I know I use Word, but I don't know if they have, like, can you look at a Word doc and it tell you how many characters or how many words?
So you can, I know in Google Sheets, Google Docs, you can do a character count. It should be in Word too, and there's lots of things online that might help with that. I don't know if people get to. I think if you're just starting out, shorter is okay. Just getting that content out there and trying to help people through your content. So creating, that well-rounded strategy.
When you really think of it, 300 words is really not a lot of content.
That's double-spaced on a 8. Remember in school, when we were in school? That's like 1 page.
Can't remember that far back.
It's not that far back, dude. You're so funny. Somebody just gave you the thumbs up. I wish I could see
I was thinking, because I wrote this, I think I wrote my longest ever comment on a WordPress post this morning in a personal group that I'm in. And so I was curious, how big is this post? Like, how big is this comment that I wrote? And it was like 550 words.
Oh, so you wrote a blog post.
Basically. And it was just a comment.
Right? That's pretty interesting. Hey, so Greg, when we're, I can't believe you did that. I wonder if it'll post. I wonder, what group was that? What group are you in, Greg?
It's for my car.
Oh.
I'm in a group of people who love the car I have.
Right? Greg's a car guys guy. Yeah. Not my thing. All I know is I can name the color of cars. I'm like, what kind of car was it? Oh, it's a black one. Right? I'm not that into cars. Okay, talking about.
So to get back, what was do you remember what you originally were sort of going on about when I was sidetracked?
I was going on about teaching and educating and actionable items so each blog post should have, one clear goal, and it should have one action at the end, whether that be to contact you or whatever. But if you do your blog post right, if there's an actionable thing somebody can do, so if you're teaching or educating and you get an actionable item in there, you actually help somebody and give them something they can do or use or work with, so that they're not just like, oh, that was okay, and they keep moving on, right?
People love free stuff.
No.
People love free stuff.
I like free stuff. Who doesn't like a good webinar, right, if they're not selling you something? And that brings us to our very next point, Greg. Ooh, in the camera.
Free stuff?
No, not free stuff. Always good to have. We did not include free stuff in this little chat, but sales and content. Right? Now we are talking about getting leads and converting them into sales. But in our content, like, I don't know about you, but do you guys know the strategy of, it's now like 20 to 1, it used to be 7 to 1. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody? Greg?
Posting sales stuff versus other content?
So your strategy should always be having 7 forms. Before you ask anybody to buy anything, you need to produce 7 pieces of content and then 1 sales item, right? That's how it should be. So if you're posting on social media, it should be, and Gary Vee says this, like jab, 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 hook, right? So you're jabbing, you're teaching, you're educating, you're informing, and then you can sell. You don't have the right really to sell right off the bat. It's kind of like going on a date and the guy walks in and takes off all his clothes and says, come on. How many of us are going to do that, right?
Because the fact is, how many of us really buy something from someone we don't really know, or a company that we haven't at least, like, who are these people? We traditionally are buying things from people we know and trust. So you can't, not do that know and trust factor in how I was mentioning earlier, build up a trust factor that, or the knowledge of these people that know you as an expert in what you've been putting out there, so that the likelihood of them then buying something from you when you're offering something is higher because they've already gotten to know you, gotten to respect you, and know what you're all about.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why retargeting is so important. Like on any platform, so using Facebook retargeting, if you're going to do any type of advertising, I think I would recommend that maybe first and foremost, right? So that is the salesy. We all see it. We all know it. We've all seen people in groups who go in there and pummel sales stuff. There is a strategy around how to communicate, and you can actually sell without selling. You know what I mean? Like, Greg, us in this Facebook group, we don't sell. Generally in this Facebook group, we do not sell ourselves or our business. We might mention something we have at the end, but generally it's about community and development. And we do that because it creates a know, like, and trust factor. And we've had people reach out to us and ask us for help. And we've had different people we've helped. There's some business stuff we've done. And the reason is because we've created this factor, right? The know, like, and trust factor. And so that's a huge thing in marketing, in your writing. The other thing we want to talk about here is problem solving. So when you're writing content, what problem are you solving? What question are you answering? Maybe start with the end in mind, right? So write your conclusion and then write your blog post or your content. What do you think about that, Greg?
Yeah, for the limited experience I have in actually writing content, that sounds like it makes sense. Have an end goal of, whether you're selling something to someone, or explaining or answering a question to someone. Obviously you need to know the question before you can answer it. So it makes sense to define what you're trying to give people or project to people, and then write based on that.
Right.
So I would agree with you.
Yeah, I think so I'm always trying to answer a question when I'm blogging, and that, if you're tracking what you're doing and you're tracking your traffic, those are the things that can really help people, right? If we're there to educate and we're there to inform. Always.
One thing I do all the time, I think this has come up in the group before, is present something that hits the person, whether they have like some type of a pain that you will alleviate. Everybody buys on emotion. So hit that emotional chord with whatever it is you're offering, and tell them that you can, help alleviate whatever that thing is by going with your service or buying your item or what have you.
So taking that direct problem and not throwing the solution right in there right away, but talking about the problem and the feelings, and if you have clients, what they struggle with, or you can ask, right? Like what's the pain point, and addressing that in a way where, so I don't know if you know, but Facebook does not allow negative comments on ads anymore. So you can't say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, right? You have to frame it in a positive framework. So that makes kind of a weird difference in marketing and talking about pain points. Like, do you feel, it hurts when blah, blah, blah. So you have to be cautious with that. But on your own web pages and blog posts, diving right into that and like making people feel through your content. Remember, it's all about story, and it's all about solving a problem and educating and informing and creating actionable items for people. Mm-hmm. There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh, you mentioned the giveaways. Now we're a bit over the 30 minutes, so Greg, we have to go in a minute. But couple last things. Greg mentioned giveaways. They're always helpful on page. If you guys think of anything else that you think would drive leads and sales, make a comment. If you're catching the replay, definitely let us know. We thank you all for joining us. Greg, what is going on next week?
Is next week when Ashley joins us?
I think it is. I'm just looking. Next
no,
week,
I don't think it is.
Ashley, guys.
I like this one, actually. I think I came up with this because I think of it all the time. Do it for yourself like you do it for others. So this is going to be all about what you do in what you offer people. Actually doing that also for yourself, because I find, like myself, I build websites for people, and my website is like the last thing I ever think about.
Right? It's a big deal. It's honestly like we got that new site up, and I have to plan out time to do some SEO stuff, right? So I'm definitely maybe the last on my list, but that's what we're going to talk about, guys. We're going to talk about doing it for yourself like you do it for your clients, because that's fun, right? The other thing I want to mention, not sales at all, I promise, but guess what? Guess what? I'm going to talk about this more in the future.
What?
I have finally finished my 8-week or 4 weeks, 2 classes, depending on what you want, learning how to do your own optimization, so local SEO, basically. So taking you from learning about how to figure out what you're writing about, creating a strategy, and doing all that jazzy stuff. I'll talk about that more one day soon. If you have questions about that, ask me. It's been super fun, super informative, and in the group, there was somebody that actually made comments about how much they liked working with me. So, yeah. Right?
I did see that.
Yeah, I'm a good time. I am. Anyway, guys, join us next week. We're so glad you came. And next week's going to be a really good topic. And we really want to have your opinions, because I know either you're not doing stuff for yourself and you're working hard for other companies. But let's see how we can do it for ourselves, right? Right.
I'm curious how many people are like me, and, what I provide, I barely ever focus on for myself. I think it's high.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. I do.
Yeah.
Guys, let us know what you think, and if you ever have any topic ideas or want to talk about something, let us know, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.